Hey everybody, my name is Jen. This is Views from My Backyard. Today we are going to do a quick garden tour. It is the end of August. I don't know where August even went, but next week is September. So we're going to do an end of August garden tour. It's going to be pretty quick because there's not a ton of changes between July and August. Things are just, it's like things are slowing down. There was some production, but things are kind of like the tomatoes are just barely getting into their peak of production, but other things are starting to slow down. So we will carry on with that. First, again, here we have the the bed in front of the house that has herbs and perennials in it. It is mostly weeded, and some of the things are looking a little bit on the thin side because I did do a large harvest of herbs the other day. I've got my parsley there. My rosemary, I didn't cut any back on that the other day. My other parsley here, I took a big chunk of sage, or that's not sage, that's oregano. I took some oregano. I cut a little bit of thyme. I did not cut any of this lemon mint because I believe, as I might have noted in a previous video, that plant, I accidentally pulled it out of the ground when I was weeding, and it hasn't really grown back to its fullest. I've got the chamomile, I'm just letting flower. I've got a bunch of dill hanging out here, and I'm just going to let these rest of them go to seed because I have harvested enough dill. I've got my basil, which has been harvested off of not the other day, but pretty recently. That is my lemon balm down there. It has been chopped back quite a bit, and it's all being dried in the house. I've got my comfrey here, and it's beginning to get flowers. I chopped some more of the large leaves off of that. And this little guy right here is my fennel, and it is beginning to flower. I did chop a bunch of it back. And that, of course, is drying in the house as well. I've got Tulsi basil. I have quite a bit of Tulsi basil, which I have cut back a real lot, and those are drying in the house. This huge black mustard plant is still going strong, and the bees are loving it. One thing I did different between July and August is I moved my peppers. They were not liking, it was okay where they were out in the middle, but now it's beginning to be the end of August and it is getting to be cooler at night. So I put these up against the house, which is one of the reasons why I had begun to grow them in the containers in the first place, because the house generates when the sun beats on the house, it puts out a lot of heat, and peppers being heat-loving plants, they need a little bit of a boost. It's getting cold at night. Not cold, but it's getting colder than these plants like at night. And during the day, the hours are getting shorter and shorter. So that's those. Over here, this is one of my first large raised beds. I've chopped pretty much everything out of here, and I have begun to fill it with grass clippings because I am preparing to have this bed be for my fall winter garden. I still have some of these black mustards in here. I chopped a whole bunch of it back, and they are drying in a bag in the house. I'm going to harvest the seeds off of those. So they're still going, but not as good as the ones up next to the house. And come around this side, I've got that fantastic celery. Now in this garden, I've got carrots, and then my beets aren't doing super great down there, and then the chard and arugula. The arugula is pretty much on its way out. This is where I started doing my square foot gardening method. And I've also started to do this garden as a winter fall preparation. So this square back here has some celery in it. I planted 4 celery in there. This square here, which is not coming up, I planted these on the 23rd and today is the 26th, so they're not coming up yet. This square here is sorrel. I planted 2 of those, and then this square has that plant right there is onion, so I transplanted some of my onions into that one. The other 3 squares in this bed have not been planted. On the other side are my cucumbers. They are looking pretty sad. I am not sure. They have a lot of yellowing, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on with them. I believe that because this bed is on the ground and it's only been in for 2 years, I think it's possibly a perched water table. I'm not 100% sure. I know this leaf is yellow and browning. I did put worm castings into the soil the other day and covered with some more hay, but I have not watered because I'm afraid that if it is a perched water table, it is going to make it worse if I water. This side, these are looking the same way. They are still producing cucumbers, and the cucamelons are still producing a little bit, but they are all kind of turning yellow. If you go around to this side of the bed, I've got my ground cherries, my Molly's ground cherries. They're starting to come into production, and they are green, 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 super green. It's a huge contrast if you can see the difference between that yellow leaf from the cucumbers and then the green of the ground cherry. It's a huge difference. But I'm hoping that with not watering as much as I was on the cucumbers and the worm castings, that hopefully those cucumbers will turn around enough to get me a somewhat good harvest. They're putting out a decent harvest. I believe a lot of the plants are not fertilized all the way, I believe is how you would call it. I was told that when you have a plant such as, or a cucumber such as this, where it's fat at the top and skinny at the bottom, that shows that it wasn't pollinated entirely, or it had not very good pollination. So I didn't think that was possible, but that's possibly what I've seen on a lot of these. I don't think that's the same. I don't think that's something to do with the yellowing though. Now in this bed, I had my other square foot bed. I've got my broccoli, and I've recently thinned out some of the larger leaves of broccoli. Under that tile, I planted, the other day on the 23rd, I planted some carrots. And then I have a couple carrots coming up in this section right here. And then I have my lettuce back there. Here is my monster winter squash vines. They're starting to push down that trellis a little bit. And if I back up a little bit, we can see some of the tomatoes. The tomatoes are beginning to grow out of control on this vine. It's a good thing I have them staked up to that vine. They are coming in pretty good. The alpacas are on the inside and the cherry tomatoes are all on the outside. And I've been supporting these winter squash with pieces of it. It's not pantyhose, but it's the same thing. It's nylon leggings. It's like the socks. It's the same thing. These mystery fruits, I believe that those are the kabocha. I wasn't sure. They appeared to be more round when they were younger, but I think they're a kabocha. And then I've got the pumpkins that are growing well and a whole bunch of my buttercup. So I think this one is a buttercup, and I believe this one is possibly a kabocha. That one over there is a kabocha with a pumpkin down there. That one's going pretty good. I'm going to need to support that one pretty soon. And I have this pumpkin that's supported, and then inside somewhere there's another, yeah, down there. That one is turning dark green, so I need to support that pretty soon. I've got my summer squash, the green zucchini over here. I've been regularly harvesting zucchini off of these every few days. There's a zucchini under there that I can probably harvest that. I might leave it till tomorrow. I'm not watering them too much, but the plants don't really necessarily need water at this point in time. These cherry tomatoes are going out of control. And I've got some lovely marigolds. Let's go around. I've got my ornamental sweet potatoes, and I've pretty much tried to train them to go towards the outside of the bed. They're still trying to encroach upon this himica here, and I've got the other himica there. I'm not sure about these melons here. None of these melons look good. I don't know what happened. Maybe something in the bed happened. It looks like they are dying, but it appears as though everything else is fine in the bed, so I don't believe that it's lack of water. And when we go around to this side, ooh, it's a little late in the year for this, but that is my eggplant. I don't think that is going to fully come to fruition because it's so late in the season, but it's finally getting a flower. So I'm just going to let it ride out and see what it does. I've got my okra here, and my okra has a couple flowers, and it's got a fruit on it. And then I have my yellow squash, which does have some really small, squash on it. There actually, a lot of them aren't really looking good on this one. But there's this one here that in a couple days I'll be able to pick. I've got this bed here that I just planted with the winter garden. We'll come back to that. I've got my tomatoes over here. That are in the in-ground. I've got my two determinants, and they seem to be doing okay. I'm not overly impressed with them too much because they seem to ripen on the bottom but then not the top. And I've been bringing them in just because I'm afraid that they're going to get rotten or something's going to eat them out here and I won't be able to harvest them. And then in the middle of those two plants, I had a volunteer cherry tomato grow up, which wasn't planned. And then I have another cherry tomato right here that I thought was my Dr. Witchie's. And then I have some kind of aroma tomato, which I thought was a Dr. Witchie's. Now, my Dr. Witchies are right here. None of them are beginning to blush yet. I've got large fruits. They've already broken the vine, and I'm trying to support them with this blue container. And then over here on the other side, there's a whole bunch of them. It does have a lot of fruits on it, but unfortunately, they're not ripening yet. Then I have my San Marzano. That is going crazy. I have three San Marzanos growing up in this spot, and it is going out of control. They look so good. They're also ripening a little weird too. They're ripening to where the tops are still green quite a bit, but I've been able to bring them in and get them to ripen up inside. And in this bed, this is where I've had most of my brassicas, and there's still a few in here. I've got, I think, 2 or 3 Brussels sprouts in here. I've picked a couple Brussels sprouts, and I also had a cabbage butterfly get in here, so they've gotten cabbage worms on them. I did have to go get some BT and spray them down with BT. And I have, under this mess, I have 3 red cabbage. Now, I took out the peas, and I've begun to fill this bed with grass clippings because I'm going to prepare peas to go up this trellis again over the winter. I don't know that I'm going to use this bed for anything this winter other than the peas to go up the trellis. Now, in this bed, this is the one that I just planted with winter stuff. I've got it spaced out in 12 by 12 squares. So there are 7 squares long and 3 squares wide. I've planted brassicas in the center. I've got, one of them is gone. I've got 5 of them going. I don't know what happened to this one. I believe, was that a red? I don't think that was a red cabbage. I think that was my only broccoli. It looks like maybe a cutworm got it. It looks like the piece of broccoli is hanging out there. I will have to check and see if there's any cutworms in here. I do have a whole bunch of onions growing of various types. I had four varieties of onions that are growing in here. This square here has celery, and the other squares have seeds planted in them, various seeds, except for this one square here that has the cell packs still hanging out in here. I just wanted to keep them under cover so that critters don't get them, even though apparently my broccoli got eaten. I don't think I have any other broccolis for this winter that haven't been chewed. So I might be out of broccoli except for that other bed right over there. So I do have a bunch of seeds planted in here for the winter garden, crops that are good for winter, and I do have a diagram of what I've planted in here, which I will pop up on the screen. All right, now we're here at my in-ground upper garden. I've got some beans mostly looking good. Some of them are turning yellow. I've weeded in here recently. I've got one tassel growing on one of my popcorns. Look at that lovely sunflower. And there's some bees hanging out on it. That is fantastic. My other sunflowers are beginning to head up and flower. They're facing the wrong direction. I thought they were supposed to turn to the sun, but they are facing the wrong direction. My calendula is flowering like crazy. These are such beautiful, beautiful, outstanding orange flowers. Then my 2 hemp plants are doing pretty good. They've been pruned quite a bit, and they're pretty big. The one on the left is quite a bit bigger and darker than the one on the right. They are the same variety, and I am hoping they're not producing flowers or whatever they do yet, and I'm hoping that inside here that those are not male. I've been watching them pretty carefully because I don't think male plants will help. I think these, you can see, I don't know what those are called, those little hairs there. I think that signifies that they're female. I'm gonna have to Google that to be sure. I'm not familiar with growing those type of plants. My potatoes are beginning to look a little dead. I'm planning on keeping them out here longer, so I'm probably going to mulch them. I'm not expecting them to green up, but I just want to make sure that any potatoes that are growing in there don't get exposed to sunlight and turn green. And now, back up. That, I've got some wild looking amaranth right there. They are looking really good, and they're not ready to pick yet. I don't think they're ready to pick until the flowers start to brown and the seeds start to come out. And then I have marshmallow right here. I don't know that it's going to do a real lot. I think it's supposed to flower, but I'm not sure if it's behind or not. It's really hard to tell because I've never grown those before. And that, my friends, is the late August garden tour. I thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Jen, and this is Views from My Backyard.